for most people, for 99% of people today, asking them to hold crypto on their own, they will end up losing it. Much more likely than they actually put it on a solid crypto centralized exchange.
This is what Changpeng Zhao, better known as CZ, the CEO of Binance, had to say in a Twitter Space AMA last Wednesday. Neuner asked him about whether Binance ever monitored or even celebrated the volume of deposits on their platform and if that was something they had targets for. Here's the beginning of this conversation.
When you guys measure yourselves internally at Binance, do you ever measure yourself as a success metric? How much money is deposited on the exchange? Like, do you celebrate when the number on the exchange goes from 55 billion to 60 billion to 70 billion? And why I ask that is probably the next question is, which is, do you encourage people to actually take their money off centralized exchanges as an exchange owner and store it in a wallet? So the first question is, do you celebrate when numbers go up, and then do you celebrate when numbers go down and encourage people to actually put money into cold storage away from centralized players?
Short answer is no. We never had a KPI in terms of user asset storage on Binance. We never had a KPI in our existence, to the best of my knowledge. So internally, I never seen a discussion like that. We never said, okay, no, our goal is to get more people to deposit with us. That's never our target.
Now, this question was asked by Neuner because, the FTX collapse and everything, people losing all their money on one of the most reputable exchanges, so it makes sense to ask this question to the Binance CEO. CZ replies that this isn't something that they really focus on, it's not a metric for them. In the next part, CZ gives 2 reasons why they don't influence crypto users to withdraw their money from the exchange.
We try to be very neutral. We don't comment. We don't tell people not to withdraw. We don't tell people to withdraw. We want to be neutral. So if people want to withdraw, they withdraw. If people want to deposit, they deposit. We don't encourage people to withdraw away from centralized exchanges for 2 reasons. Number one, we are a centralized exchange, and you can just imagine the memes, right? So CZ tells people to withdraw, so Binance must be having issues. You can just imagine that.
Alright, so the first part of CZ's answer is that he doesn't encourage crypto users to withdraw their money from centralized exchanges because he owns a centralized exchange, right? That all makes sense. I wouldn't expect him to answer this any differently. So that's all fine, but the second part of his answer is really interesting, and personally, it's not something I've ever heard from anyone, so it was a bit of a shock to me. I'll let you listen to it.
Number 2 is more fundamentally, today, most people use centralized exchanges because they're not able to hold crypto safely themselves, right? So I always say, look, you can hold, if you're technically capable of holding crypto yourself safely, please hold it yourself. And if you don't trade, if you trade, you're gonna have to have some funds on Binance. But for most people, for 99% of people today, asking them to hold crypto on their own, they will end up losing it. Much more likely than they actually put it on a solid crypto centralized exchange. So most people are not able to back up the security keys. They will lose the device. They will not have the proper encryption for that backup. They will write it on a piece of paper. Somebody else will see it and they will steal those funds. And also today, we're very fundamentally, if a person passes away, they don't have a way to give it to their next of kin. Whereas we have a standard operating procedure, like, if a next of kin come with a death certificate, we verify that, we wait for a month, make sure the guy doesn't come back from the dead, and then we give the funds to the next of kin. So all of these problems are not solved in the hold your own key world. So I'm neutral. Like, we have Trust Wallet. Trust Wallet has 50 million downloads. So it's the most downloaded wallet, and we haven't monetized that product. But we can let it grow. It's fine. It's very easy to monetize. If we charge a tiny fee per transaction, we'll make money. So it's not like we're married to the centralized exchange, but we got to be careful that I cannot recommend people to withdraw from exchanges. That's just against a number of things. So it just causes all kind of problems. So I always try to educate people so that they understand what they're doing. There are risks. Holding your own crypto in your wallet is not risk-free. I actually think more people lose more crypto when they hold it on their own than on a centralized exchange. But when it happens on a centralized exchange, especially the way when they lost it with FTX, that's fraud. That's very frustrating. So when you hold it on a centralized exchange, there's counterparty risk. When you hold it yourself, you have to have that done securely. Otherwise, you will lose that money too. So different solutions have different risk profiles. It's not like holding your own coin is risk free. That's kind of my view on that.
Wow, what a bold statement. Who would have thought that holding your crypto on a hardware wallet could be riskier than holding it on a centralized exchange, especially after what happened with FTX? One of the things I've always heard in the crypto space, and I've been here for a few years now, is hold your crypto on a hardware wallet. It is safer. Your private key and seed phrase don't appear anywhere except on, the piece of paper that you have to write it on. And, that all made sense because I don't know if you've heard stories about people having hot wallets like on MetaMask, for instance, especially in the NFT space. If that's something you're interested in and you know about, people get their wallets drained by the click of a button on the sketchy website. This kind of stuff happens, and it makes you really not trust hot wallets, online wallets. I mean, if you're in crypto, you can probably agree that $100 for security is really nothing to spend on. It is absolutely worth it. There's no argument there. It's probably something that everyone would agree on. The thing here is, I had never questioned this information. I've always just, heard cold wallets are safer, and because of how many people actually agree with that, maybe blindly, we all end up just accepting that fact. But after listening to this AMA, I don't know about you, but I started asking myself this question. Is a hot wallet not safer than a cold wallet? Do I not have more chances of losing my money if I store it on a device that I can potentially lose? And if I also lose the seed phrase, then there's absolutely no way to gain access to that money again. And that's where it's different with an exchange, because in an exchange, you always have a way to recover an account. It could be as basic as resetting your password if you've lost it. And if you don't have access to the email address where the password is sent, depending on the exchange, you also might have options to request an account recovery. So that's one thing. Recovering an account when it's a hot wallet is much easier, and let alone easier, it's possible, which isn't the case for a hardware wallet. If you lose it and you lose your seed phrase, there is no way to recover that. So that's just one thing. But there's a second thing that I deem extremely important, and that's security itself, right? So what I mean by that is, how easy is it for someone to access your account, right? On a hardware wallet, all a person needs to access your account is your seed phrase. You lose your seed phrase, someone finds it, your crypto is gone. Like, there's nothing you can do about that unless you've learned about the fact that you lost it very quickly and did something to prevent those funds from being stolen by transferring it to another wallet. But if you haven't done that, that crypto is gone. There's nothing you can do about it. On an exchange, someone would need to have access to your account, and often that requires having access to two-factor authentication. If you use centralized exchanges, you'll know most of them will push you to enable 2FA, and some features might not be available if you haven't done so. And yes, while I am aware that hacking two-factor authentication is possible, I think we can all agree that it is extremely difficult and requires a lot of experience in, being a scumbag. So yeah, it is not impossible, but there's so many companies relying on two-factor authentication now. It has kind of become the online security standard nowadays. It is relatively safe. When it comes to hardware wallets, you have a seed phrase. You need to store that. You can't just ignore that step, because then you don't have two ways of recovering your crypto. You just one. It's the device, and you lose it, you're done. No, you have to store that somewhere. So where do you store it? Who do you live with? Do you live with family, roommates? Can you trust them? Is it possible that, I don't know, do you live with your partner? If something goes wrong, is it possible that, are they toxic enough that they would actually look for the seed phrase and steal it from you? which probably means you shouldn't be with them, but that's not for me to decide. Jokes aside, my point here is that anyone who stumbles upon that seed phrase can steal your assets. You know, even someone who isn't knowledgeable on cryptocurrency can simply go on Google and search 12 or 24 words, you know, and they'll quickly find that it's a password for a crypto wallet. Now, this point of view comes from the CEO of the biggest centralized exchange. You know, it is information that you should take with a pinch of salt. Of course, as I said before, he's not going to say, oh no, exchanges are trash, you should keep your money on a cold wallet. He's not going to say that. But even with that in mind, I think he does raise a very valid point. So I think it is a very good question to ask yourself. Is a hot wallet or a hardware wallet more adapted to yourself? I think this boils down to a lot of personal preference, of course. As we've seen earlier, is your home environment safe enough, trustworthy enough that you can leave your seed phrase somewhere in it? And then on the other side, there is also the same question to ask yourself when you put your money on a centralized exchange. Is the exchange safe enough? Is it trustworthy? We've seen with FTX that anything can happen, right? So you have to be very careful about that as well. So I'm really not saying that one is better than the other between hardware wallets and hot wallets. I just really thought it'd be a good idea to raise this conversation because, as I said previously, personally, this isn't something I ever questioned. I've always told myself that cold wallets were better and safer, and they are for some aspects of it, but you know, it's not all true as we've just seen. So I'd be really interested to know your take on this. Let me know in the comments. I'll make sure to read and reply to all of them. I'm really interested to see what you have to say about this. And just one last thing before we finish this video, you might have seen that this is a brand new channel. I've made a few shorts before, I post them daily and I will keep doing so, but this is my first long video, so I really appreciate you watching this video till the end. And if you'd like to see more of this content, feel free to subscribe to my channel and like the video if you did. So thanks again for watching this, and I'll see you on the next one.